hours ago, Jon Jones called out Francis Ngannou on X, and boy, oh boy, we are gonna get into it. We already know the saga. You know the saga. Heavyweight. We know that Francis Ngannou wanted to fight Jon Jones while he was here. He ended up getting into some very tough negotiations with the UFC and decided to leave the PFL to chase boxing and have two guaranteed fights at 8 mil instead of just a 10 mil fight guaranteed against Jon Jones. So we're going to look at Jon Jones' tweet. We're going to look at Francis Ngannou's response. And then obviously we have to talk about Tom Aspinall. Because he's the one in all of this that is being screwed over the most. But if you enjoy the content, subscribe. I post daily MMA stuff. I'm on top of everything MMA. But here we go. Jon Jones snubs Tom Aspinall in favor of a Francis Ngannou clash. Jon Jones has switched his attention from Tom Aspinall to Francis Ngannou as he hints at a return to the octagon. Now, we've known for the longest time he's going to come back at MSG. We all know what's going to happen. I don't know why Dana White and the UFC are going to wait to reveal it when we all know when it's going to happen, if it'll happen. Well, let's get into it. Jon Jones has set his sights on a legacy fight against Francis Ngannou, dismissing any speculation of facing Tom Aspinall. Bones is the current and second longest reigning UFC heavyweight champion, but he still refuses to acknowledge a matchup with interim title holder Tom Aspinall. The Brit has done almost everything in his power to convince Jones to accept the bout, but it seems like the 37-year-old is focusing on somebody else. Or is he focusing on being in Thailand, being rubbed all over in a pool party, and sniffing guys' hair? Maybe that's what he's focusing on. I don't know. I don't know what gives me that intuition. In a recent post to social media, John dismissed Tom Aspinall, Tom Aspinall's constant calls to fight. The UFC legend cited that he is searching for a real super fight as opposed to competing against somebody who is a hype train waiting to be derailed. We will now go over to his tweet. Johnny Meat says, I'm hearing Francis Ngannou is still interested. Dot dot dot. Now we're talking. That's a real super fight. A clash of champions, not just hype. He held the UFC belt. I've defended mine for over a decade. While you haven't defended yours much lately in the past few years. Two kings from different roads, not just one legend facing a mouth that's hot right now, but two real legacies colliding. That's the kind of fight that actually adds something special to my story. At, at least from my point of view. Now, we have to say this. Due to the fact that Tom Aspinall is only the interim champion, because of Jon Jones, he does have a point with Francis being the undisputed champion, being the champion that never lost his belt. But again, he's not in the UFC. He's not signed. Dana White fucking hates his guts. Dana White got pissy because Francis Ngannou jumped ship to PFL. Honestly, it was a smart move before Don Davis, Dildo Davis, whatever you want to call him, absolutely shit all over Bellator and his own organization. Let's go back here though and finish up the article. That we just read that. Yeah. With Jon Jones continuing to publicly disprove disapproval fight against Tom Aspinall. Many believe the matchup, often considered one of the greatest in UFC history, may never unfold. Questions remain about whether Jones will be stripped of his title or if Aspinall will defend his interim strap as doubts continue to surround the pair's potential blockbuster bout. Dude, the UFC is becoming an absolute joke. They are an absolute joke. Where is Dana White anymore? Why doesn't he do media? I thought Dana White was the CEO that would face any media and go toe to toe with everybody in the crowd. That's the Dana White that I grew up watching. That's the Dana White that inspires me. Dana White is a big inspiration for me in business. And honestly, with what he did with the UFC, even as garbage and fucking, I don't even know how to explain UFC in 2025 now. As shitty as it is now, it does not take away what Dana White did for the other 20 plus years with growing this sport. Without him, I would not have a YouTube channel. We would not have, MMA YouTube. We wouldn't have MMA being one of the major sports. Um, but yeah, dude, what the fuck are we doing? But we do have a response by the former UFC champion, PFL heavyweight champion for as long as that sticks around. Um, Francis Ngannou's coach says former UFC heavyweight champ open to promotional return. Jones shows interest. Francis Ngannou's coach, the former UFC heavyweight champion, is interested in rejoining the promotion. The news piqued the interest of fans and reigning heavyweight champ Jon Jones. Ngannou vacated the UFC heavyweight title in January 2023, citing issues the company's restrictive contracts. Ngannou parlayed his reputation into flexible professional fighter, a PFL contract permitting lucrative boxing bouts with heavyweight titans Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Erik Nick, Ngannou's MMA coach, says boxing Deontay Wilder is Ngannou's top priority, while returning to the UFC is a close second. Absolutely. Um, we know that they've been looking to do a two-fight deal with Deontay Wilder, one in boxing, one in MMA. Since PFL has no money to pay their fighters anymore, the UFC could take this opportunity. The UFC could have Deontay Wilder come in. And yes, it probably gets destroyed. Remember too, when when all this shit happened with Dana White, Francis Ngannou, he was adamant that he did not want um Francis to fight Tyson Fury. He said it was a bad fight. He said all this stuff. But the moment that Francis left and Dana White's lover boy, Jon Jones, comes back, oh, well, I mean, Tyson should come into the cage. Well, bam, come here. We want that fight now. Simply because I don't want Francis Ngannou to get that opportunity. But luckily, Tyson Fury, being a man, gave Francis a shot, and in a lot of people's eyes, Francis won that fight. It was an exhibition, I'm pretty sure, but I mean, still, for a guy like Francis Ngannou with his history, we know that Francis originally wanted to go into boxing. It was big for him. I think this is more about business than it is about ego. At least it is from Francis' side. He just wants to be treated like an independent contractor, paid fairly, and given the freedom to pursue other opportunities. And he did that. He went out, boxed, made a lot of money, and proved himself. Where does his motivation come from now? It's not about money anymore. It's about competition. And the best competition is in the UFC. Um, and then it just goes on to talk about Jon Jones' tweet. We already went through that. So this is a fight that I feel fans still want to see. This will be a major fight. Francis Ngannou's stock skyrocketed after leaving the UFC, and not many fighters have that trajectory. It's honestly fascinating what happened with Francis. Now, we know that Francis had his accident, and he's dealing with that right now, so you have to factor in that will probably take time to resolve. I know that he was quite of illegal wrongdoing, but again, the mental toll on him for what happened, and we obviously know what happened with his son Kobe. This guy doesn't get a break whatsoever. But obviously, I'm on Topology. This is the MMA heavyweights, so everybody outside the UFC is on here. Number one, we got Tom Aspinall. Number two, we got Jon Jones. Um, yeah, Dana White probably wasn't like that. You got Volkov at number three, who just got robbed by Gun. I don't know if you need to burp or hiccup. Yeah. So Volkov basically on a 5-fight winning streak since being submitted by Tom Aspinall. You got the mentioned Shogun, robbery against Volkov, TKO Spivak got submitted by Jon Jones instantly when Jon Jones won the belt. All the way back in 2023, a TKO title Abasa. You had the Ngannou fight where he won the first 2 rounds, and Ngannou went heavy with the rest win in 3, 4, 5. Ended up winning, running away with the belt. He TKO'd Derek Lewis, won a decision over Volkov the first time. But again, you got Blades here, who trains with Jon Jones, I do believe. Like he lost to Aspinall, Ashton, KO'd Almeida, lost to Spivak, was on a 3-fight win streak because of the injury to Aspinall, KO Christakis, beat Rosenstrike, who's no longer in the UFC, TKO got TKO by Derek Lewis. Pavlovich, very boring fight against Rosenstrike, which got Rosenstrike cut from the UFC. Volkov, Aspinall, wins against Blades, Tuivasa, Derek Lewis, Shamil, I'm not going to try and say his name. He got dropped to Almeida on a 2-fight win streak since getting KO'd by Curtis Blades. You got the mentioned Francis Ngannou here, won his last 7 fights ever since losing to Stipe Miocic the first time. Oh yeah, that is right. They kind of did make him going around for the title. You got Shamil Gaziev on the come up. KO Thomas Pedersen, 14-1. We'll have to see if he pans out in the division. You got Sergey Spivak fighting Walter Cortez Acosta, Tybura Lewis, Vadim Nemkov. Yeah, he's not in the UFC. But like, you have all these guys, and I bring this up every time I talk about Jon Jones. I talk about Tom Aspinall, because as much attention there is to Tom Aspinall, to get what he rightfully deserves, you gotta think about these other guys. Volkov wants to fight for the title before he retires. Um, Shogun does not deserve another title shot. Curtis Blades would like a shot at the title. Sergey Pavlovich would like to make another run at the title. Almeida, one of the most talented heavyweights I've ever seen. Pretty small for the division, but again, another guy that should be competing for the title. So the UFC really needs to put their foot down with Jon Jones. And I think it's a matter of Jon Jones does not respect the UFC anymore. Why would he? They are letting him go out in Thailand, record Russian open or film Russian opening fighter, play play touch run the pool, sniff people's hair, normal shit that a UFC heavyweight champion typically does. But man, this is interesting. Now, I don't think it's fair if they have Francis come back and jump over Tom. I think the UFC is committed to giving Tom a shot. But hell, if Jon Jones can make it past Tom, I mean, you got the Volkov fight, kind of makes sense. And really, that's the only guy close to the title that I can think of. So, and that's the thing. Jon Jones could have fought Pereira. Jon Jones has been willing to fight Pereira instead of Tom Aspinall. If he just had booked the fight, done it, maybe you have it at International Fight Week. The sooner he got past, or he gets past Tom Aspinall, or if he loses to Tom Aspinall, he can move on to the money fights regardless. Like, his legacy is already written. Now, the positive test, the arrest, all the drama, it takes away from his legacy. A lot of people discredit him for that, and they have every right to. But come on, man. Give Tom a shot. If Francis is back, book it, I don't know, early next year maybe. I would like to see Jon Jones, if he stays, get, multiple fights in a year. I doubt it though at this point. The UFC does, they need to put their foot down with Francis Ngannou. But I wanted to go over this topic really quick. What do you think about Jon Jones calling out Francis Ngannou? And what do you think about Francis Ngannou having heavy interest in coming back to the UFC? Do you think it happens? Do you think Dana White will put away his stupid grudge against Francis Ngannou for making the right financial choice for him and his family? Or are you just committed to the Tom Aspinall fight? You only want to see the Tom Aspinall fight. And that's a fair argument too, but let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Later.